оружия, как мы знаем, как вы знаете.
As we know, as you know, no one in the world has such a weapon yet, Putin said in televised comments. He said the step was prompted by Ukraine's use of U.S. ballistic missiles and British cruise missiles to hit Russia. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said Kyiv was working with Western partners to work out systems to counter, quote, new risks. He described Russia's use of the new missile as an escalation. While Russia said more tests would follow, a U.S. official said the weapon is experimental and that Russia has a limited number of them. RAND Corporation engineer and analyst Michael Bonnert.
In many ways, this is Putin acting out because he feels vulnerable. And this is one of the few ways left that he can demonstrate concern while trying to look strong at the same time.
Moscow says that by giving the green light for Ukraine to fire Western missiles deep inside Russia, the U.S. and its allies are entering into direct conflict with Russia. On Tuesday, Putin approved policy changes that lowered the threshold for Russia to use nuclear weapons in response to an attack with conventional ones.
I mean, I think it shows that Russia has been working on a conventional intermediate-range ballistic missile, a missile system that was not known, at least not for people outside of government. And there has been much speculation since yesterday what kind of missile it could be until President Putin revealed the culprit. And so I think we should be worried in the sense that this simply shows that we are in the midst of an arms race concerning different kinds of missiles, not only in Europe, but globally. And the problem in Europe with these kind of missiles, I think, is also reflected in Asia, where this process has already been going on for quite some time. But I think, generally speaking, it was a political signal, more so than a military one right away, because we know that Russia informed shortly before the Americans about the fact that they would launch a weapon via the different channels they have through the nuclear risk reduction centers. And so it's clear that Putin wanted to show this is our red line. Don't go further. Don't deliver more weapons of similar categories to Ukraine and allowing them to strike our territory. So basically, I think he tried to escalate in a way to de-escalate, but we have to see whether this kind of Russian logic will work in the case of the war against Ukraine. Well, I think that the respective authorities and the intelligence services, they certainly knew that Russia has been working on that kind of missile. Otherwise, we would have not been able to identify it now. But this said, for example, Germany announced some time ago that it would acquire so-called Arrow 3 anti-ballistic missile systems. And there has always been discussions about why this kind of systems, because they are directed exactly against intermediate range ballistic missiles. And at that point, everyone knew, or at least was not aware of the fact that Russia has these kind of missiles. And now it makes sense, right? Because this defense system is directed exactly at that class of missiles that Russia now uses against Ukraine. And so I think along these lines, European states will invest further in ballistic missile defense systems, probably not so much in intermediate range ballistic missiles themselves, because that's a difficult technology and there's not much experience in Europe with that. But certainly the United States, as has already announced, are going to move forward also with placing certain missile systems, cruise missiles, but also ballistic missiles, and maybe hypersonic missiles in Europe, particularly in Germany, as it has been discussed for the last months, since Germany and the United States agreed in the context of the Nato summit in summer to place such missiles in Germany from 2026 onwards. Well, I think people should be worried. They're right to worry. I mean, we are in a very difficult situation. And certainly the escalatory cycle, if you want, is moving on. We see this now. Things have happened that were unimaginable 2 years ago or 3 years ago in Europe. So there's certainly reason to worry. The decision or the renewal of the nuclear doctrine in Russia, I think also, of course, happened in the context of this war. But it is a signaling device, right, to tell the West, all right, these are our red lines. We want to reestablish deterrence. Don't move forward. Don't support Ukraine. But the matter of the fact is that both sides, Russia in this case and the West, have simply very different contradicting interests. And so we have to walk a thin line between, on the one hand, making sure Ukraine gets supported and survives as a state, and on the other hand, not risking a war potentially catastrophic between NATO and Russia.
Nukleáris doktrínáját és hiperszonikus rakétákat is kilőtt Ukrajnára.
Amikor egy olyan országgal, mint Oroszország, amely más, mint mi vagyunk, és alapvetően a katonai erőre építi a politikáját, egyáltalán a világban elfoglalt helyét, a jövőről alkotott elképzeléseiben kulcs szerepe van annak, hogy ők a világ egyik legerősebb hadserege, amely a legmodernebb és legtömegpusztítóbb fegyverek fölött rendelkezik. Amikor ők mondanak valamit ebben az ügyben, azt úgy kell venni, ahogy mondják. Tehát én azt hiszem, hogy a következő 2 hónapban nekünk, európaiaknak nem az nyugat-európai kommunikációra épülő politika törvényeiből kell kiindulnunk, hanem egy háborús logikában minden mondatot és szót megfontolva, körültekintően és a józanész szabályai szerint kell eljárnunk, egyébként baj lesz.
Wojna na wschodzie wchodzi w rozstrzygającą fazę. Kiedy wszyscy to wiemy. Czujemy, że zbliża się, ale zbliża się nieznane. Nikt z nas nie zna końca tego konfliktu. Wiemy jednak, że nabiera on bardzo dramatycznych w tej chwili wymiarów. Wydarzenia ostatnich kilkudziesięciu godzin pokazują, że to zagrożenie jest naprawdę poważne i realne, jeśli chodzi o konflikt globalny.